Does Valorant have too many agents or too many different pieces of utility? That's a question that seems to come up every couple of months, and after the release of Tejo and Waylay, a lot of pros seem to think that the visual clutter in the game is at its all-time worst. So, at what point does Valorant just become too much? Alright, so despite being labelled as the more beginner-friendly cousin of Counter-Strike back in 2020, Valorant has become pretty f***ing complicated. We've all seen that Cadril clip.
Look at this chat! Let's rush the bomb site. Blue wall. Raining smoke. Nami ult. I don't know what that is. Nasus E all over the site. Incoming nukes. Nukes dropping down. Wall. Pushing over the rocket with rocket launcher flying over. Insane splash grenade. In laser beam from the sky. This guy can't see anything. He sees blue. This guy sees yellow. He sees something. He's flashed. This guy peeks. A kill. I can see. I can't see. This guy's casting a spell. More smokes. More rain. More lasers from the sky. Green. This guy's a dog. Sniper. And then the site's taken. Like, what in the f*** is that game?
I'm sure anyone who doesn't play Valorant is still trying to decipher what the hell was actually going on in that clip. Now, to be fair, that was back during the Harbor and Viper meta that dominated throughout most of 2023, but even Valorant players had a good laugh because of Cadril. It was a pretty wild meta to look at, even if you understand the game. But what if I told you that things have arguably gotten worse? Throughout the past 5 years, Valorant has experienced plenty of different metas, but one of the biggest parts of the game has always been using utility to delay the enemy. And you might be thinking, how is that any different from Counter-Strike players using smokes or flashes to do the same thing? Why does it matter? And, well, you don't get free rechargeable utility in Counter-Strike. At the peak of the Astra and Viper meta back in 2021, teams were just putting the spike down, running away, and winning the round from miles away without even needing to keep their gun out. And I'm not saying that teams shouldn't use lineups. They absolutely should. Lineups add a layer of strategic depth to Valorant, which is exactly what you want to see. The problem is that some Valorant abilities are basically just point and click.
Out of the charges, pulling them
it's
in.
Still not half.
What?
Nice-oo! What a game we play. We get paid. Chat, let me get this straight, chat. We get paid thousands and thousands of dollars just to press one button, pulling them in, concussing them, pulling them in. What kind of agent is this?
There's been plenty of different examples of this over the years, but last year, Riot dealt with a completely different problem. Throughout all of 2024, we watched teams put the spike down, run off site, smoke themselves off, and then spam away until they won the round. Yeah, you could argue that this has been a thing forever, but it was especially bad on Sunset. And by the end of last year, it seemed like Riot was finally willing to address some of these problems. They made changes to Sunset in particular, making it harder to play the post plant from within B main, but they also implemented a massive ping nerf. As of patch 9.11, pings no longer travel through smokes and they no longer appear in the game world. They only show up on the minimap. Now, if you ask me, I feel like this always should have been the case since Valorant came out. It always felt kind of cheap being able to just ping where the bomb was planted and spam away to win the round. But when I saw this change, I couldn't help but think that this was just a band-aid fix for a larger issue. And that issue is that Valorant maps kinda suck. And before you attack me in the comments on this, trust me, I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Hell, even Valorant's lead map designer, Joey Simas, agreed with this when TenZ was shitting all over Abyss last year.
I feel like we're going to actually go with what is the biggest problem in Valorant. It is the map design. Like, it really is. Like, you got to look at even just to the bigger level, like Abyss. Like, what am I actually meant to do on defense? I have to either play a site or I have to retake or rotate all the way through spawn. I have two options. Like, I can't do anything good on the map. Like, the maps are a giant issue in this game. And I think you're just talking of like a little micro point.
Yeah.
But then I think there's loads of micro points. You put it all together and it just leads up to the big issue that the maps in this game aren't good.
Maps aside, the ping nerf has absolutely helped change Valorant at every level of the game. It took Riot 5 years, but I'm glad they finally made this change. Throughout Kickoff and Masters Bangkok, we saw it have a huge impact on the outcome of rounds. Teams were losing post plants because they couldn't rely on just spamming through smokes as easily. We spoke to Ye before the Masters Bangkok playoffs, and here's what he had to say.
I think the ping change helped, like in the sense of like, because at some point you could plant the spike like anywhere and like you could just spam nonstop. And I think with the ping change, it's forced people to plant in like more specific spots, making it like a little bit harder. Looking now, I think it's like a positive change, but it's still not enough in my opinion.
But in typical Riot fashion, they fix one problem only to add a new one. Tejo is busted. Teams who incorporated him into their comps relatively fast found a lot of success throughout Kickoff and in Bangkok. He was the most picked agent at the entire event at 56%. Even though T1 managed to win with mostly double duelist comps, it's pretty clear that Tejo is very strong. And now we have Waylay in the game. The jury is still out on whether or not she's OP, but in the hands of a good player, she's pretty annoying to play against.
Bro, this doesn't look like Valorant at all.
One enemy remaining.
What is going on, man?
One enemy remaining. Spike down mid.
Aspas is already masked.
Like, what? What's happening?
Now, to be fair, Aspas could probably make any agent look god tier, but stage 1 of the VCT is starting up in most parts of the world this week, so we should start to see whether or not Waylay is a viable duelist in pro play. I know Kang absolutely farmed in EDG's opening match with Waylay, but until we have a larger sample size, I'm not going to be the one to call her broken just yet. There are still some bugs that need to be fixed with her dash, but I'm sure teams will be told not to abuse them considering they're fairly well known. That being said, her abilities are certainly reinforcing this idea that utility in Valorant has become way too annoying to deal with. Since Masters concluded, we've seen countless pros complaining about power creep, excessive utility, and the overall lack of clarity in the game. Burke is practically losing his mind. He just keeps posting all of the agent ultimate voice lines. My guy is going through it.
Bro. Look at this shit. Tell me right now. Look at this. What do you do? He just sees colors.
The power creep in this game is too bad. Like, we've gone to a point where like this is like Valorant isn't a tactical shooter anymore. It's an arcade shooter now.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like it's getting a little crazy.
If you have Tejo, Breach, and Waylay, how the f do you play on a bomb site?
Yeah.
This problem is getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And there's nothing we can do about it. This is just the way it is.
Pansy chimed in on the topic too, suggesting that those who disagree with the pros might just be bronze. And although that might sound harsh, she's probably right to an extent. Low elo players don't always know how to best make use of their utility. But I do actually think that the average player is starting to get a bit annoyed by the overwhelming amount of utility and debuffs within the game. And to be fair, Valorant's principal UX designer, Alex Wheeler, did reply to Tens, and he acknowledged that clarity is something that Riot is actively looking into and trying to fix. But regardless, I think it's pretty clear that Valorant isn't the beginner-friendly shooter that Riot once marketed it as. And as more agents and more debuffs continue getting added to the game, there's a chance that things are only going to get worse.